Hello, hello. Welcome back to Women Need to Do Better. Or welcome if it's your first time here. Hello, my name is Shelley Kirschman. I'm your host, and this show is for the women who are tired of being last, last on your list, last priority. And my job here is to say out loud what us stressed out, overfunctioning women have been thinking in our heads for years. And this podcast is all about having those honest conversations about the stress, about the pressures, and the emotional weight that we carry while we continue to tell ourselves that we should be able to handle more. You'll see no judgment here. There's no lectures. And if you've ever wondered why doing so much has felt like it's still not enough, you're exactly where you need to be. So last week, we were talking about the helper brain. And that's the part of you that never clocks out. You're always trying to be 5 steps ahead, always bracing for what might happen, running in the background of who needs what, and you're just exhausted. Because technically, even when you're trying to rest, you're not really resting. Your brain is still low mode, running through all the scenarios. So we are now in week 3 of our 6-part series on stress. And today's episode is all about helping versus saving. So I want to be upfront. This one might make you a little bit uncomfortable, and it's not because it's harsh, but it's because we're going to be really honest. So grab your coffee and let's get into it. All right. So we've been doing this series for 3 weeks now. Well, we're in our 3rd week, and I want to ask you something about stress in your life. Okay. And this question, I want you to think about it before you really answer it in your head, out loud, whatever. But try to answer this question from a point of objectivity, where you're actually really taking the time to think about the truth in the question. So my question is, when was the last time you let somebody else handle something? And I'm talking about like fully handling it without jumping in to fix it or finish it or redo it later. Okay, just handing it over to somebody else and letting them roll with it. Not hovering, not checking. And I keep saying these things because I see myself in that when I have asked for help, which for me, yeah, sometimes it's really hard to ask for help. And then when I do ask for help, I don't even really let them help me. I let them help me with parts of it, but then I kind of check in or I go behind and kind of fix things. I don't know if that sounds like you, but a couple of stories come up in my mind when I have done that, where I kind of shoot myself in my foot because I need the help, I want the help, but then I don't really allow people to help me. One quick story is my husband used to always let me get the dishes, do the dishes, and it used to drive me nuts because we all are using the dishes, and I didn't feel that that should be just solely for me to do, because pretty much in my house, I do all the cooking. So when I would ask him to do the dishes, the first time that he remembered actually helping with the dishes, he was like, okay, I'm not going to wash them before I put them in the dishwasher, because he doesn't understand why I wash dishes before we wash the dishes. That's a story for another time. Anyways, I was trying to let go of some of that and just let him load the dishwasher. It's fine. But after he loaded the dishwasher, he went down to go sit and watch TV. And I saw the way he loaded the dishwasher, and I started rearranging them so they would fit better. When he saw that, he was like, why did you ask me to do the dishes if you're just going to redo them? Valid point. Don't know if that's ever happened to you. Another time, we were getting ready for a party. We were having a bunch of company coming over at our house, and it was a weekend, so it's basically all the household chores along with getting the house cleaned for party ready, right? So everybody had their zone to take care of in the house. Mine usually is typically the kitchen, so that way I can get it to my standards or my specs. And everybody else had a different area of the house that they were responsible for getting cleaned up and ready. So I'm cleaning up the countertops and washing dishes and making sure towels are out, that they're clean, mopping the floor, you know, getting everything ready to my standards. And everybody else was doing what they were supposed to do and taking care of their own areas. And I'm kind of finishing up. And so, of course, I'm checking to see, are we still on time? What time is it now? How much time before people start to show up? Does the house look presentable? And as I'm walking around, and I didn't do it to check on them or to make sure that they were doing, it was more of I'm helping, right? If anybody else is not quite done, what else can I do to help? So that way the flow is easy, the house is ready, and not everybody's stressed out. But as I'm walking around, people are not done with the things that they were supposed to be done with, that I figured there was plenty of time for them to finish what they were supposed to do, what they were responsible for. So, as my helper self, I started helping. So, I'm picking up some clothes, or I'm taking some trash out, or you know doing the little things that needed to be done that weren't finished yet. Nobody asked me to do it. Nobody said that they needed some help, but here I am helping. So as I'm helping, they see me helping and they figure they've done enough and I will finish it up. So they go off on their own to do whatever they wanted to do, enjoy their time before company showed up. So now what happened? I am stuck cleaning the rest of the house by myself, and I feel myself feeling a little resentful for it because I already did my part and they started theirs and didn't finish. So how does that work, right? Then, of course, I start feeling like every time I ask for help, I don't get the help. They feel like every time I ask them to help, why bother? Because I'm going to do it my way anyways. So there is part of the problem is I want them to help, but I want them to do it a certain way. So here's the part that I want you to hear, okay? When we're asking for help, we have to trust that they're going to do it. We have to trust, even if it means that they fail our standards, if they don't do it the way that we expect them to do it. And this is what carries that burden for us, why we're always doing all the things, why our responsibility can't seem to be offloaded. And I want you to hear this for what I'm saying. I'm not saying that we need to lower our standards. I'm not saying that it's our fault, but we are our own worst enemy. We are the reason why we have so much to do because we self-assign these jobs back onto our plate. And it's not because we're bad people. It's not because we're ego driven. It's not because we're control freaks. It's because we have learned not to trust anyone. And at some point in our past, this pattern has repeated itself that when you ask for help, things either aren't going to get done right, or they're not going to get done at all, or it's going to cause you more work in the long run. That one was one that hit for me a lot with when I was evaluating when I ask for help or why I don't ask for help. That one got me the most. And this is a consequence of not getting things done the way we want it to be done. So we just adapted either the way we ask for help or the way we accept help or the way we kind of pretend that we're going to get help, but then we end up taking it back. So we're just wired that way. Our brains have gotten really good at, okay, we're going to kind of ask for help, or we try to give smaller tasks away, but then you ever find yourself still taking those small tasks back? I want to go a little bit deeper than that too. So what I've just described, let me know in the comments if that's something that you can relate to, if you see yourself in that story or whatnot. Our problem isn't necessarily not trusting other people per se. Really what it boils down to, and when we strip all the emotions away, we do not trust the outcome. So it's things not going exactly how we planned them to. We don't trust that. Like for me, in that example of the story, when I'm walking around the house, I wasn't trusting that the amount of time I had left before people started showing up, that my family would get their zones fully taken care of. And if I think about it, if they didn't, what's the worst that could happen? Like, is it really going to be that detrimental? And so that's where that control piece comes in, where we don't trust people to do what they need to. So our helper mode is really a saver mode. We are really trying to save them and save ourselves from the failure that we see coming. And maybe it wouldn't come. And maybe it really wouldn't be that big of a deal, but we never let go of it long enough to find out. And that's part of the problem, is that we never let them fail. If they're going to fail, they're going to fail. And so part of it is we're creating our own exhaustion because of that control, because of that perfectionism, because we want everything to be a certain way. We have our standards. And yes, we should keep our standards. But in order to keep our sanity, sometimes we have to have a certain amount of balance. You can have your standards for this is the way that I want my house clean, or this is the way that I want something done. But in the grand scheme of things, when you look at everything that you are responsible for, if you want someone else to help you, you have to let them fail so that way you can correct after the fact. And that could be a nice conversation, not a critical conversation of, okay, when I asked you to help me with, saying, cleaning the house, I was really wanting to make sure that XYZ was done. And so then maybe the next time the communication is a little different, you have a checklist of these are the items, so that way there's no confusion on what your version of clean is versus my version of clean. There are little tweaks that we can do where we can allow someone to help us without having to take that responsibility back. And the other big piece of it is having some patience. We have to have the patience to allow them to fully take responsibility, because I know with my husband, a lot of times when I would ask him to do a task and he would say, yeah, he's going to do it, I'd keep questioning, when are you going to do it, or how are you going to do it, or are you making sure? And from the person that's offering to help, if they keep getting nagged, it's harder for them to want to help. So you have to figure out that balance of how much do you really want to stay responsible for, how much help do you want to get, and what does that look like? Because there's always going to be that period in between of that learning curve, them learning what that means to help you and you learning what that means for them to help you. So what I want to leave you with is a task for this week. So if this one hit home, what I'd like you to try to do, and it's just one thing, I promise, super easy. Well, I shouldn't say easy, super simple, not necessarily easy. And it's just a way to start implementing things to help de-stress your life and learn how to let go. So this is not about lowering standards. It's not about, just let them do whatever and then you have to redo it. It's a balance of learning how to trust people and letting people learn what it means to help and what that looks like to you versus what it looks like to them. So your assignment for the week is to give somebody one thing, okay, one thing off your plate that will help. So that means you don't take it back. That means you don't go behind them and fix it. That means that you just kind of let them fully be responsible for it. Okay. And whatever it is, write it down. But then I want you to, after they've completed that, check in with yourself and see what comes up for you. Did they do it right? Was it hard? Did you have to bite your tongue? What kind of discomfort did you feel, if any, right? What kind of urges came up? Where did you, like with my husband and the dishwasher, where I wanted to rearrange it? Okay. And just kind of breathe through it, write it down, and let it sit. Because that is the start of how to kind of start letting go. And I promise you, your world's not going to come crashing down. Like I said, one thing, and don't pick something really big that's going to impact you where it's going to stress you out worse. Something relatively small so that you take these tiny steps to learn and build towards letting go of stuff, letting go of some of those responsibilities so that way you get to enjoy life too. So next week, it's going to be week 4, and we're going to be talking through this stress series. We're almost halfway there, and I've been building up towards this because this one is really important. It's actually going to come down to what's actually going on underneath, right? The stress triggers is what next week's episode is about. And we're going to trace this back to the original story that your brain built around this and why it keeps showing up in your adult life and why it keeps going on repeat. So please stay tuned for next week. We're going to talk about those triggers that set off the stress like dominoes. And once you kind of see yourself in the story, you can't unsee it. But the good news is that means you get to help fix it for yourself. So make sure that you're subscribed. That one drops next Monday. And if today's one hit close to home, if you could resonate with what I was saying, see yourself in the stories, then I'd love you to take the survival test. The link is in the show notes, and subscribe so that you don't miss an episode. I love you, and I will see you guys later. Bye for now. See you next Monday.